includes planning, modeling, observing, and reflecting to improve teaching practice. How can I use what I learned in my teaching? I can apply these ideas in my classroom by creating a supportive learning environment,
Modeling, observing, and reflecting to
that
improve
helps the students feel comfortable and confident while learning English. I can use micro teaching by planning short lessons based on my student interest, modeling activities clearly, observing their responses, reflecting on my teaching to make improvements.
All right. Let me ask you this. While you have been teaching this week, have you thought about any things that we
Yeah, of
talk
course.
about?
Actually, yes, of course. I used what you told me about micro teaching to, if I want to deliver any new information to my students, I have to repeat it 3 times at least, or 5 times.
3 times?
Five times. 5 times.
Yep. Yep.
I think it was effective also.
It is very it could be very effective.
Yeah.
Repeating,
5 times.
a lot. And sometimes we have to do it more than that. But repeating new information to anyone 5 times is very important.
Yeah.
It's very important. All right, today, thank you for your journal response, number 1.
Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah.
Today, we want to talk about lesson planning.
Okay.
Now, I gave you a whole big theatrics on Saturday about how do you close this? About
lesson plan?
About not lesson plan, but unit academic plans, unit plans, the importance of these things.
Okay.
But let's talk about the crux of planning, which is lesson planning, daily lesson planning. I'm going to share my screen in 1 second.
Okay.
There we go. All right. Now, there's no, set way to do a lesson plan. There are many good ways to do a lesson plan. Okay. So, but what we want to talk about today is what should be in a lesson plan. Okay. So you can have whatever type of structure that you like, that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But these components should be in your lesson plan. Okay.
Okay.
First, you want to have context. Okay. You should always think about the context. Well, again, let's back up a second. When you're writing the plan, you're writing the plan for yourself and your colleagues who might have to cover your class. Okay. That's first and foremost. You're not writing the class. You're not writing a plan for the benefit of the principal
Mm,
to make the academic director happy, or the supervisor. You're doing it because you need to have a guide on what you're going to teach for a particular class. Or if you are not, if something happens, you can't make it school that day, whoever's covering your class can teach the lesson.
mm. Yes.
Make sense?
Yes, of course. And it organize your steps.
Yeah. Do you see you see this, right?
Yeah. Oh,
Okay. So the first thing we want to consider is the context.
okay.
Context. Okay. The context. Context. Remember, what is the context? What is the context? Remember from Saturday?
Yeah. Wait. لا, context. Bismillah. It's understandable and
The context is the situation
inputs.
what? The situation what?
Oh,
Context is
situation.
the situation what?
That learners understand. Is the
The
situation?
situation understand.
Yeah.
Your students understand.
Yeah.
Now that you understand the situation that your students understand.
Yeah.
Okay. Every time you go to teach, I don't care what you're teaching, language arts, history, math, everything must be taught in context. Because going back to what we talked about on Saturday, these concepts that we are teaching, or these points that we are teaching, they should all go to solve a problem that a learner has. Every last one. And most problems, or all problems actually, are contextual. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to be late for work. Why? Because my car broke down and I gotta take Uber. Right? I can't go on vacation this summer. Why? I have all these bills to pay. My financial situation is not that great, right?
Yes.
Context, right? So as educators, we teach in context because problems are always associated with a context. Problems are always in context. Okay?
Okay.
So we always want to consider the context. And again, the context is the situation the learner understands.
Understand.
After we consider the context and the problem around the context, or the problem could be the context. We want to think about our objectives. Now, there are two types of objectives. There's a terminal objective and then an enabling objectives. A terminal objective is something that the student will be able to do in that class period that they will be able to use forever. So for example, in this lesson plan, we have used the target language to talk about what they would do for exercise. How long and where, right? They'll be able to do that forever. So if this was an ESL class, you're talking to them about what do you do for exercise? I run. How long do you run? For about an hour. Where do you run? At the gym. Okay. When do you run? Every other day. Right. So they can answer. This is something they will be able to use forever. As long as they're able to speak, they can use that dialogue, right? So a terminal objective is and why are terminal objectives important? Because a lot of times you don't see this in a lesson plan, terminal objectives,
Yes.
but they're important. Why? It helps us defeat what? Something that we talked about on Saturday, the inert knowledge problem.
Again,
The
please
inert
help
knowledge problem.
us for what? Again, why we need to
Remember
know?
on Saturday we talked about the inert knowledge problem.
Yes.
INERT.
Yeah.
And that is what? That is when we teach students things, concepts that doesn't solve any of their problems and won't solve any of their problems. All right. For example, let's say we were talking about Napoleon Bonaparte and a Battle of Waterloo.
Mm.
What problem does that solve for a child? For, let's say, a seventh grader. Does that solve any of their problems? Learning about Napoleon and the Battle of Waterloo. Does that solve any of their problems? Probably not.
No. Yeah.
Probably not. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that we should not talk to students about or learners about Napoleon and the Battle of Waterloo. It was a very famous battle. However, if we don't teach that in context to a problem, and we can't come up with a terminal objective for that, then maybe we shouldn't be teaching it. When you have terminal objectives, it helps you think about the value of what you're teaching and whether what you're teaching is possibly inert.
Mm.
If you don't consider the terminal objective, then a lot of times you're going to fall into the inert knowledge problem.
So to avoid internal problem, right?
Yeah, we think about the terminal objective. What can the learners take out of this learning transaction that they will be able to use for the rest of their life? Or if not, at least to solve a problem. Maybe they'll use the rest of their life, but they'll solve a problem that could happen, or maybe a problem, immediate problem, but a problem nevertheless.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that we should not teach about Napoleon, but we should do it in context. In context that allows us to develop a terminal objective. So in this case, we can always talk to someone about what I do for exercise and how long and where do I do it, and when do I do it, why do I do it, right? This is something that the learner could use indefinitely. Once we identify a terminal objective, and let me say this too, this same type of thinking is the thinking that is used in businesses. Instructional designers use when they're coming up with training programs for a business. Why am I teaching this? What benefit will this professional development or this course have to the business, to the employees? Does it solve any of the employees' problems that they're having at work? Because if it doesn't, then why am I teaching it?
Okay.
So as educators, we should be asking the same questions. Okay. That also helps with what? The student's amygdala. Remember the amygdala, right? What's in it for me? Right?
Yes.
All right. So once we determine the terminal objective, we look at enabling objectives. All right. These are all the things, and these are what we call the SMART. SMART. The terminal objective doesn't necessarily have to be smart. It just has to solve a problem.
Okay.
But these enabling objectives, these enabling, excuse me, can't wait to get over this cold. These enabling objectives must be smart.
What do you by smart يعني?
Oh, great question. What do I mean by smart? All objectives, all enabling objectives, or all objectives must be smart, except the terminal objective. All right. You're probably seeing it in your 11 years of teaching. Students will be able to.
True, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
These are enabling objectives.
Students.
Okay.
Students will be able. Okay.
Some teachers, some schools say, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to.
Yeah.
Some teachers even give the accuracy at 80% accuracy, at 60% accuracy. You can get as fancy as you want. But, excuse me.
It's okay.
But these enabling objectives must be smart. All right?
Yeah.
The S. S is what? Specific. Your enabling objectives must be specific. All right?
Okay.
Meaning you are addressing one particular point. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Look at my enabling objectives here. Greet each other and exchange names comfortably. Ask and answer, what do you do for exercise? Ask and answer questions student to student using target language structures. Substitute new vocabulary into core structures and student-to-student interactions. Fill in grid, and then blanks in listening sheet with help from other students and teacher prompts. Participate in an XO game using target language. What do you do for exercise? Write or underline. Notice write or underline, that's specific, right? Underline. Answers to focus questions and read activity. So each one of those 7 enabling objectives are smart, or is smart. Each is smart, okay? Because it's specific.
Oh, yes, it's specific. يعني it's
Okay. The next one, M is measurable. Write that down. You need to know this for sure.
This
Every
is
teacher must.
after enabling objectives measurable, you mean?
So every enabling objective, okay, must be smart.
Smart,
Must be specific
and measurable.
Specific,
Yes.
measurable. Okay, what is measurable? Meaning, you as the teacher. Oh, I said a bad word. Teacher, bad teacher, bad teacher. You as the educator, you as the researcher, you must be able to observe that the student is doing it.
Okay.
So if you cannot observe in that lesson the participant, the learner doing that objective, is not measurable.
It's like applicable, يعني you can apply it, right?
You need to be able to see. Like for instance, 7. I can look at them underline, right? I can watch them participate. I can see that they're filling in the grids. I can see them substituting new language, or I can hear them rather substituting new language. I can hear them and see them ask and answer questions, right? I can hear them and see them ask and answer, what do you do for exercise? I can hear them and see them greet each other. Now, this is very important because sometimes you will see some teachers write objectives like this. Students will be able to understand what they do for exercise.
So this is
Or
not correct.
students will be able to understand this, the main idea of the story. Okay.
But you didn't write this. The student will be able to
Yeah, no,
participate.
I'm just giving you an example. I'm just giving you an example.
Okay. But
That
it's correct.
that
It's
is an
correct, right?
that is an example of something that's not measurable. You cannot measure understand. So in a SMART objective, you would never use the word understand.
Okay. And we cannot use the student will be able to do blah, blah, blah like this. It's not correct.
You cannot say a SMART objective, you can do whatever you want, but a SMART objective is not, you would not write words like students will be able to understand.
Mm,
Students will be able to know.
okay.
Students will be able to know how to read a sentence. Well, how do you know? How do you know if a student knows?
Yes.
You never know what a student knows. In theory, understand. So things that are not measurable, that you can't see with your eyes or hear with your ears, are not measurable. Okay?
Yes.
He should be able to measure it. And what do we measure it with? What do we measure it with? A rubric in some cases. So in some cases, so if we were teaching older students, and let's say we were teaching a writing class,
Yes,
then
that's only
we would use a rubric to measure their writing. Or we'll use a rubric to measure their speaking. Right?
Yes.
Okay. If it's something that is subjective. And again, this really falls into learner, like older students. You might ask them their ideas or their opinions about something, right? You say, well, what is your opinion about how Juliet handled the situation when Romeo died, or vice versa, right? Whatever the case, right? That's an opinion, right? The problem is a lot of times teachers, and you can ask that question, that's fine, but we don't put a rubric to that question to help students write or come up with a good, or say a good response or a sufficient response. So if a student says, well, I don't like the way he handled that situation. Why? Well, because I just didn't. Well, that's not an acceptable response, right? So then you get into the student, well, you got to give me more. You got to give me more. Well, that's your fault. Why? Because you didn't put a rubric to that question. You didn't say, okay, when you think about this question or you think about this answer, I should hear 5 things. I should hear this, I should hear this, I should hear this, and I should hear this. That way they know what a good response looks like.
Yes.
So many teachers give open-ended questions, okay, and don't assign a rubric to the open-ended question. And then they get mad or frustrated when the students or the learners give a weak response. Makes sense?
They have
This
to
all
guide them.
falls.
Oh, yes.
You have to guide them. Remember what we said on Tuesday. What? When you're teaching, right? When you're testing, you're testing. Right?
Yes.
Just always keep that in mind. That rubrics really fall under the M for measurable, right? They fall under that M for measurable. Okay. All right. So again, let's review. S is what? Specific. Every objective must be specific, must be one specific thing, which I want you to underline. I want you to circle. I want you to write a simple sentence that has a subject and a verb and a complete idea, right?
Okay.
The second M, measurable, is you should be able to see the learners actually doing that specific thing. You should be able to see it. All right.
Yeah. You're not allowed
Understand?
to use
No,
words such as understand or no.
yeah,
Right?
you don't use subjective words or abstract words like know and understand.
Yes.
Okay, you can't measure know and understand. You can measure whether they circled, whether they underlined. You can measure whether they hit all the points in the rubric that you offered them. You can measure that. Okay, we have A next, right? A is achievable. Some people say attainable or achievable. Either one of those words work. A is attainable or achievable. And all that means is what you are teaching appropriate based on the learner's ability? Is it age appropriate? Is it grade level appropriate? Is it appropriate to their abilities? So can they actually do it? Right? You would not ask a first grader to write a 5-page paper. Right?
If
Would
they
you write a
can,
5-page paper about why Napoleon, right? And why Napoleon did what he did in the Battle of Waterloo?
okay.
Right? A first grader would not be able to do that. Make sense?
Yes.
So you got to make sure that whatever you're asking your learners to do, that they have the ability to do it.
Do it.
And again, sometimes we as educators, we get so excited. We see something on YouTube. We see another teacher do something, right? Oh, I want to do that with my students. Man, that looks really cool, right? You see something on TV. Oh man, I'm gonna try that. And what happens is we haven't considered whether our students have the ability to do that one thing. Do they have the prerequisites to do that? Are they ready to do that? Right? Remember what Dr. Carl Ann Thomason said, right? In order to differentiate, you must be what? Students must be ready, interested in the learner profile, right?
Yes.
Right. So again, as an educator, we're always making sure our students are ready to do the cool things that we want them to do. And yeah, that cool thing probably could be done, but we got to make sure they have the prerequisites to do it. They're ready to do it. Okay. So is it achievable? Is it something that they can actually do? Is it something within their ability? Is it age appropriate? Is it something that they physically can do? Is it something that they can mentally do? Right? Is it something that they can emotionally do? Right? These are all things that we have to consider when you talk about achievable or attainable. Okay. After A, we have what? R.
Oh, yes.
R is relevance. Relevance. Okay. Relevant meaning going back to the inert knowledge problem. Does this solve a problem that they have? Is this outdated? So I'll ask you, should we in the year 2026 be teaching students how to type on a keyboard? Is that a relevant skill?
No.
No, it's outdated.
Yeah.
It's outdated. Now, when I'm so old now, when I was coming up, I actually took a typing class in sixth or seventh grade. I remember this class because I broke one of the typewriters, and my father had to come to the school and get me out of trouble because I was playing around and knocked one of the typewriters off the desk. Big still, it was one of those ones you went shh, 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 shh. You ever saw those? Right? Um, Now, when I was in the sixth or seventh grade, people still didn't have computers.
Yeah.
People were still typing on a typewriter,
Oh.
right? People were still typing on a typewriter. A lot of times, being able to type certain words per minute, that was a good thing that you would put on your resume. Oh, I can type 120 words per minute. Oh, I
Yes.
can type. Remember that, right?
Yeah.
Those days are over with,
Mhm.
right? Nobody cares how many words per minute
Yeah.
you can type in it. So that skill set is antiquated, it's irrelevant. So we really should not be teaching young people or any person really how to type. Pecking is okay now,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Right.
So that's an example of something that would be irrelevant.
Irrelevant.
So we want to make sure that everything that we teach learners, it solves a problem, whether it's an immediate problem or a long-term problem, but it solves a problem and it's relevant to their life, and that what I plus one that'll help build on to something else, whether it's the next unit or the next school year or
Yeah.
whatever, or the next stage in their life.
Yeah.
Okay. And then T, that's the easy one. T is timely.
Related to the time.
This is the one I had the most problems with because I always over plan. That's my biggest issue, is I over plan. So if I have a 45-minute lesson, I plan for like it's a 60-minute lesson, right? And I always try to reduce it. So what I try to do now, if I have a 45-minute lesson, I try to plan a 30-minute lesson.
Yes. Yes.
But uh, but I always want to add stuff like, oh yeah, this is a good idea, and so that's one of my biggest struggles is making sure that my lessons are timely, that I can actually complete everything in the lesson plan within the time that I have allotted.
Yes.
And for me, that's my biggest challenge. That's my biggest challenge. Uh, so we just talked about terminal objectives and enabling objectives. Remember, enabling objectives must be smart. Okay. All right. Now, again, as I said before, your lesson plan does not have to look like this, but you should consider including all of these factors or these ingredients. Now, notice how we set this up. We have time, teacher does, students do, and then problems. Okay. So I think so. What I do is I normally start with students do. This goes back to a kind of a theory on backwards mapping. I say, I want the students to do this. Let's look at the lesson plan. The first thing says what? I want the student to observe me model, because I'm doing the teacher paradigm, right? Teacher.
Yes.
So I want them to observe. I want them to sit down, be quiet, look at me, right?
Yes.
I write that first. Students will observe the teacher model.
Mm.
And then under teacher does, I say, what do I need to do in order to get the students to do that? Make sense? So I look at the students first. Here's what I want them to do. And then I do teacher does. What do I need to do in order to get them to do these things? Make sense?
Yes.
All right. And I go down the list. These are all the things I want them to do. All right. Now notice, now again, this is broken down because this is a TESOL conversation. This is broken down into like a TESOL deal. But again, I would argue that you should have these elements regardless. So when you first start a class, you should definitely have a greeter, right? A greeting. You should say hello, hey, boys and girls, hi class. Everybody having a good day?
Yes. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
Mm.
Now, I'm not gonna sit there in front and act like I'm super teacher because I'm not. Sometimes I'm cranky in the morning because I'm not a morning person.
Yeah.
And I don't say anything. So I just go right in the lesson because I'm just so cranky. I am not a morning person. I've never been, right? So if I have an early class, oh man, I feel sorry for those guys because they're just so cranky. So that's why I had to get enough sleep.
Yes, all of us, والله, me too. I'm not a morning person, but I have to.
Yeah. So sometimes I'm just so like, let's turn the page. Let's open the book, right? But the advantage I have is I teach university, so I can be a little mean.
Good.
You can't be mean because you teach the babies. But the greeting, but science tells us that it's good to smile. It's good to greet them. Why? Because of that RAS, right? Or what we talked about last week.
Yes, we will
Last
reduce the filter of the students.
we want to reduce that filter.
Yeah, if you didn't.
We don't want to do anything. We don't want to do anything that's going to take information to the non-thinking part of the brain.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like I said, sometimes I don't practice what I preach. Sometimes I don't practice what I preach. Sometimes I'm so cranky. And I did not realize that, okay, Ray, you've been a little cranky. It's time to smile. So I'll pull a joke and let them know that, and I'll say, hey, look, forgive me. I'm just not a morning person, guys. And then they realize that, oh, here he goes. He's gonna be cranky for about 10 minutes. But
Yes,
he'll start smiling soon.
Yeah.
But again, there's a science behind that. You gotta smile. You have to greet them. That greeting is important. If you don't, you could be really having people's RAS send the information to the non-thinking part of the brain. And then when you have student complaints and students not learning, you're trying to figure out what's going
Yes,
on.
especially the lower grade students will start feeling scared, unhappy.
Right.
Yeah.
Unhappy. And
sometimes.
So we definitely have to be mindful of that.
Yeah.
So the greeting, the warmer is different from the greeting. The warmer is different from the greeting. The warmer is designed to give the students at least one victory in that lesson. If they don't get anything right, or if they don't understand anything in a lesson, they're going to at least have that one victory of the warmer. So the warmer should be always super easy. That's an opportunity for every learner in the class to have a victory.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Usually,
So
the warmer is what exactly? Because I see different opinions يعني, related to the warmer. Sometimes they said that start with activity, a song, like this. But you put here the question, what do you do for exercise?
So depending on the grade level, a warmer could be, I would think the song would be more like a greeting.
Okay.
The warmer should have some academic value, but again, it could be a song.
Mm.
But it should have some academic value.
Should have
What
academic
it
value.
what it could. It doesn't it's only there. Listen, the warmer is only there to prepare them for learn, to get them out of fight, flight, or freeze mode, to get
Yeah.
them ready for learning.
Yes, to get them
Okay.
ready. Yes, with you. It's like the greet.
So,
يعني it's part of the greeting, I think, because you want them
so
to face the.
again, I'm not gonna say that you can't have a song for a warmer. You could, especially if the song has academic value.
Yes.
Okay. And again, kindergarten, we treat kindergarten different than we treat first graders and second graders and so on and so forth. So it has to be age appropriate, right?
Yes.
But here's the key. Whatever it is, it must, not should be, it must be easy.
Okay.
Now, I tell you what you must not do.
Okay.
Or let me be easier on you. I'll tell you something that you should not do. You should not you should not drill them on what they learned yesterday. Okay, this is just to cover what we learned yesterday. That may not be easy, right?
Yes.
So most definitely want to make your warmer something easy, right? It could be, how are you feeling today?
Yeah.
All right. Or let's say it's history class and you're going over what would you do if somebody broke into your house? Let's say the history was one country invaded another country. That's the topic that you're working with. So the warmer might be, what would you do if somebody came into your house without your permission? The learner can't get that wrong.
Yes.
It's still relevant. It is still relevant to the topic, and everyone in the class can answer that and get it right. Versus saying, yesterday we talked about Germany invading Poland. We talked about that.
Yes.
I don't remember talking about that. Germany invaded Poland, right? Or you get, I wasn't here yesterday. Oh man, I really missed out. I wasn't here. Now the student feels like they're behind.
Yes.
Right in the beginning of the class, and they're already behind. It's like, now you're sending information to the non-thinking part of the brain, fight, flight, freeze. Well, I'm already behind, so I
Yes.
might as well go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
So it's better to say, well, what would you do if somebody came into your house without your permission, right? And now notice that the textbook that we're using is called Smooth Moves.
Yeah.
And why do we call it Smooth Moves? We intentionally call it Smooth Moves, not because it's a cool name, but as a teacher, what we do is when we're instructing, we're moving throughout our lesson smoothly.
Yes. Yeah.
So the students don't know that we went from greeting to warmer to control practice to vocabulary. They don't know that because we're just transitioning smoothly,
Yes.
right? So, we go from, what would you do if somebody broke into your house or came into your house without your permission? Well, I'll call the police. Well, I'll hit them with a bat, or I'll run out the house. Wow. Well, remember yesterday we talked about Germany invading Poland. Unfortunately, a lot of the Polish people weren't able to run out the house or call the police, right? So I smoothly transitioned from their warmer right into connecting it to the lesson. Very smooth, right?
Just to
And
connect all
that's
the information together.
why, see, you can't do that if you're not planning. And that's why I don't like people, or I don't like it when people say it's not important to lesson plan. That is the craziest thing an educator could ever say. It's crazy. You will never hear an instructional designer or a corporate trainer at Microsoft or Toyota or whatever big company, Amazon, tell her boss or his boss, well, you know what? I didn't plan for this training today. They would never say that, right? But for some apparent reason, educators get away with saying it, and it's a no-no, because we need to figure out how we smoothly transition. All right.
Yes.
All right. Now all these points are in your smooth move book, by the way. The greeting, the warmer, the control practice, vocabulary expansion. We're going to talk about those. They're in the book.
It's in the
but we'll
book, yes.
talk.
Okay, good. So, because I want to
All
ask.
these points are in the book, and we will talk about it. But today, I just want to talk about the lesson plan in itself, right? Because again, I just want to talk about the lesson plan in itself. Okay. Now, and I want to be mindful of your time because I was late and you weren't late, so I'm not going to hold you
Yes,
over.
it's okay.
Now, look at the next line to the far right. So I go, students do, teachers do. What do I want the students to do? I write that first, and then I ask myself, what do I need to do in order to get them to do it? That's teacher do. The next thing I ask myself, about how long do I need to take to do that? Right? So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, right? And then I go back to the far right and I ask myself, this is a very important question. What problems will I have? Not the learners. What problems will I have in trying to get the students to do what I'm asking? Again, it is essential that you don't look at it. So you don't say, well, Johnny always likes to go to the bathroom. Or Abdullah always likes to go to the bathroom. Or Dahlia always likes to go to the bathroom.
No, we
right?
wouldn't.
No, that's your problem. Because what would happen is you start to correct Dahlia. No, you're not. That plan is not about correcting Dahlia. It's about saying, I know that Dahlia may do this, so what do I need to do to help the whole class get through the lesson? If I know that these are obstacles. All these, the problems are there for, and you rarely see this in lesson plans. They're there, so you're thinking about what problems routinely or that you can predict may happen based on your prior experiences, and what the things that you're going to do to help overcome that obstacle. Instead of just saying, this happens. Oh, this always happens. Well, if you know it always happens, what are you going to do about it? Right?
Okay.
So that's why we have problems in our lesson plan. And you rarely see that area in a lesson plan. Extremely important, because again, this is about planning. So we have good, solid, smooth move instruction.
Yes, this is the first time actually I see a form for the lesson plan with the problems like this column.
It's
You
essential.
don't use to actually write problems.
And you should, because we all face problems, and we always face. The students have issues, and we have to see it as our issue.
But I think
Okay,
the
so
problems
we
we
can
have to
overcome
write
the
it
problem.
when we finish the class.
Hmm?
I think the problems we gonna add them when we finish the class. The problem that we faced or the problem that we
Yeah, but yeah, and that's okay. You can do that. However, when you're writing the next lesson plan, you look at what you wrote after the class and you say, okay, this is the problem I faced on Sunday. Now, what I'm going to do about it on Monday? Because what keeps on happening if you just say, I'm facing this problem, I'm facing this problem, I'm facing this problem, but you never actually do anything
Yes.
to actively fix the problem. Or you see it as somebody else's problem. Well, this is not my problem. This is a student problem. Or this is a principal problem. You know, I don't get paid to do this. But it's obstructing your lesson. So that's why we do that. Okay.
Yes.
All right. And like I said, I'm going to break all of these down for you
Okay.
because this is based on an ESL lesson, and we have a little time, so I'll do it now. The greeting, we talked about the greeting, we talked about the warmer. Let's talk about control practice. And again, you're going to read this later on as you read the
In
book.
the book, right?
Control practice is when the teacher is modeling, and it could be your micro lesson actually that we went over on Saturday, right? It could be minor, or it could be just regular instruction, right? But the key here is, even if it's not a micro lesson, is when you, the educator, is dominating or modeling instruction. That's why we call it control practice. You're controlling the practice. You're modeling it, and you're controlling every aspect of it. Now, every lesson may not have control practice in it because you may be in the part of the unit where the students are actually doing more of testing now, or practice, or applying, and we're moving up Bloom's taxonomy. So don't think that every lesson has to have a control practice. Now, in an ESL setting, in a TESOL setting, yes, because we're talking about people who have no English or very little English. So every lesson you would have these elements. But in a normal school setting, no, because you're teaching by units, and as the more the learners are learning the unit, you're letting go, right? You're reducing your teacher talk. So you're not talking as much as when you first introduced the unit. As the unit moves forward, as you move forward the unit, you're talking less and less and less. Make sense? And the students should be talking more and more. If you're doing all the talking, this is problematic, because how are the students testing what you are teaching? So as the unit proceeds, if you're in day 7, day 8 of the unit, all right, students should be leading the instruction more, and you're talking less. Then, towards the end of the unit, you're talking, you're not really talking at all, right? You're just giving instructions and letting this, because now you're moving more in a project based or problem based or flipped classroom. You're finding different things. Remember what we talked about in day 1, probably there's no best method.
Yes.
Right? The post method condition, but camera de value, particularity, right? Practicality. Do what works. All right. What worked in the first part of the unit is probably not going to work in the second part of the unit.
Yes.
All right. Because they're learning. So give them opportunities to start to play and apply. Think about blooms that we went over on Saturday. How can you get them to apply? How can you get them to analyze? How can you get them to synthesize? How can you get them to evaluate? Right? If they get in their synthesis and evaluation, you should be towards the end of the unit. And now they're telling you, all right, boom, 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 and this is why, and blah, 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 and you're doing less of the talking, and you have your rubric, right? And you're evaluating and doing formative assessments and making sure you feel comfortable with them moving to the unit test or whatever type of assessment that they have to take. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's control practice. And again, we will talk a lot more about that when you get to the chapter. Vocabulary expansion. Okay. Vocabulary expansion is now we're letting go a little bit. And we're allowing, remember when we did the teacher, student, teacher, remember that? And I said what? Don't let them move away from the script. What do you do for exercise? I run, right?
The same.
They stay on the script. Now, when you get to the vocabulary expansion, this is now when they can play with the script now.
Okay.
All right, and you can help them do that. You can have cards. So, like for instance, what do you do for exercise? I run, but I might give them cards. Some of the cards may say, I walk, I jump rope, right? I do Pilates, I do yoga, right? I lift weights, right? So when they get to the vocabulary expansion, you're talking less, and they're using the cards to kind of figure out what language they can use. How long do you run? Well, I run for an hour, for 2 hours, for a half an hour, right? They could test out different responses. Because that's what we call vocabulary expansion. Why? Because we know that speaking is not formulaic. It's not, there's nuances to when we speak. So vocabulary expansion gives learners the opportunity to give those nuanced responses. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's vocabulary expansion. We'll talk more about it. Listening activity. Again, in your regular classroom, you may or may not have listening activities. You use them when you need them. In a TESOL or ESL environment, we want to give a lot of listening activities so they can build their language, right? So, and we have different types of things that we can do with them, like fill out a grid. We'll have one day dedicated to teaching listening. Okay. So I'm not going to get into that because we'll have one day where we just solely dedicate to teaching listening. Okay. All right. And then you have a reading activity as much as you possibly can. And again, I'm not going to get into it because I'm going to have a whole day where I have a teaching reading class. So we have a day where we do teaching listening, teaching listening, teaching speaking, teaching reading, teaching writing. There'd be a dedicated day for each one of those. Okay.
Inshallah.
All right. Now the commutative activity, this is an activity where they get to apply everything that they went over that was discussed in practice, and they get to apply it in a way amongst their peers. Sometimes it's a game, sometimes it's theater techniques, whatever. But this is a moment in the lesson where you're just giving in the instructions, and they're kind of just using, in a fun way, going over or applying what they have learned.
Okay.
And again, we'll go into more detail on that later. Okay. Okay. So this is an ESL, and again, you can cater this lesson plan to your classroom to make it fit. What I want you to know is that these elements, the context, the terminal objective, the enabling objective, you should always consider the time, Start with what the student will do, and then respond to that with what the teacher does at the time, and think about the problems that may exist. Remember, these are teacher problems that may exist that will stop you, that may be obstacles. Like, for instance, I know tomorrow when I do my lecture that my podium doesn't work. I know that's a problem beforehand. So what I'm going to do tomorrow is we're going to designate a new classroom that has a working podium. Why go into that same classroom one? So that'll be the first thing I'll do tomorrow is say, all right, guys, we're going to move to this classroom where we know the podium works. Because if I sit there trying to fix it or diddle daddle with it, and I know in this probably, the IT people don't care, that's just wasting valuable class time. So why go through all that? I know that's a problem. I'm going to address it tomorrow and move on to another problem on another day. Okay. It goes back to Einstein's, what is insanity? Insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result each time. All right. So as learners, as teachers, as educators, we don't want to be insane. We definitely don't want to be insane. All right. I'm going to stop there because I was late and I'm not going to go over your time. I'm going to respect your time. But I think you got a lot today out of lesson planning. The key here is plan, right? The key here is smart objectives. The enabling objectives must be smart. What is smart? Specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, timely. Key. And educators are not the only one who use smart. Companies use smart. When they do things, they use smart. Okay. And it's a business thing and it's an education thing. Smart is the real deal. So when you write objectives, so when you walk about a teacher classroom and she doesn't have a smart objective, you can say that objective is not smart, and you can tell her why.
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Inshallah.
Do you have any questions for me?
No, thank you.
All right. So we'll see you Saturday, inshallah, at 10 o'clock. Okay.
Inshallah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye for now.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Don't press yourself out when you ain't got no money. Y'all be too good to ask the hoe for a handout. Girl, it's okay to ask for some goddamn money. Shit. Like, when you just call my phone like, yo, you got 15. Girl, yes, I do. Here you go, because I know your ass not going to pay it back. And I don't know what you're going through.